Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, current NWA National Heavyweight Champion, two-time former TNA Impact World Heavyweight Champion. He is the Overman,
Yep.
Mr. EC3. EC3, what's going on?
Oh, I'm not the Overman yet. The Overman is my final destination. What I plan on becoming and how I'm going to get there, well, that's the journey of the summer. But I am doing quite well. When I heard we're doing the two-man power trip, I thought I was going to be like tag teamed. I didn't know it was just John.
It's just me. I'm the one-man power trip of the two-man
You're a
power trip. That's
one-man
right.
power trip, but now that you have me as a guest, I understand the concept two-man power trip, and together we will trip balls. So
Yes. So what's going on in your world? You look like you got something going on behind you.
Yeah, I have a wrestling ring behind me. So right now I'm sitting into the future home of the CYN cooperative. Like CYN was never supposed to be a promotion. It was always supposed to be an idea, manifestation, like minds, talents, becoming your greater self through the art of professional wrestling. So I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't want to call it a school. Anyone can have a school. What I have is a cooperative. Sunday, 5/21. I'm doing a free seminar. We're calling it CYN Preface for people to come by and check it out. But I think we're going to be trying to open the very first independent reconditioning class in about mid-June. So that's exciting to take people under my wing, in a way. Like, because it's not like I'm Vince Lombardi yet, because I'm still playing at an extremely high level. I kind of see myself as a master chief in the Navy SEALs, where I'm going to train you, I'm going to drill you, I'm going to make you better, but also when the time comes, I'm going to have to lead you in battle. So that's my position.
Nice. And what was that you were saying? It's not a
It's not a school. I don't want to
hmm,
wrestling school or academy. It's I don't want to do things. Obviously, that's not my way in the way everyone else does them. So the CYN cooperative. I like the term cooperative because it's a building, it's collaborative. It's where you come together to train, to be better in different and unique ways. And for any prospective professional wrestler, if you have training, like I can imagine, what are your wrestling school days? You show up, you have your stinky pads, you put them on, you guys, bullshit for 30 minutes about nothing. You line up, you roll around, you do some rolls, and then you bump. Like, you know how to roll, you know how to bump. What you don't know is how to come into your own element, to become yourself, to become the star that you can be. So that's the kind of stuff I want to train and teach.
how long does it take to do that, to come into your own? And
Oh God, we'll get you done in 12 weeks, brother. No, that takes a lifetime, really. And it's kind of a process that's never fully completed because you'll never, to achieve perfection's impossible. But to achieve moments of perfection, that's tangible and it's real. And I've had a few in my life, and hopefully I can show people how to have them themselves. But what I want to do with independent reconditioning, probably 12 weeks, but people can sign up for the year. Kind of every day is going to be different. Every session is going to be different. So I have curriculums in mind. But one thing about wrestling, when it's done best, it's done its best on intuition and, with whom is available. So the first independent reconditioning class might have a set of needs, and then the second one might have a completely different set of needs. But it's advanced conditioning, advanced psychology, advanced human development is what I want to do here.
a lot of other places, won't mention any names, but it seems very cookie cutter. Is this kind of being the opposite of that?
Yeah, I always go against the grain, sometimes to my own detriment. I wouldn't say like cookie cutter is good in the beginning. So when we do beginning courses, the essentials, that would be very, it'll be the best, but it would be very, the basics and the fundamentals and, getting a talent, a prospective wrestler into the proper mindset and physicality to take what this is. I don't see many places that offer, though, the next level kind of training. You know, there's, places may, but like with whom is training? Where have they been? What have they done? At least I can say I am a former world champion. I am a future world champion. I'm a current champion. I continue to compete at an extremely high level. I do physically look better than everybody. I never blow up. And I'm a master on the microphone. So I would think I have some insights to offer.
Yeah, you would think that people would want to be training with you, and maybe they can grab some of that.
Maybe, but people hate me because they read the internet too. So whatever.
What do they hate you about? What are they hating you for?
I don't know. Everyone hated me for a minute. I forget why.
So you mentioned CYN, and you said it wasn't supposed to be a promotion. How come it did become a promotion? Like, how did that happen? And
Well, as the leader, I take responsibility for that because a lot of people saw the opportunity to do things the way things have been done or they think they've been done and make it into something that it wasn't supposed to be. So when we have, high level names attached and we have a television deal, allegedly, that people get involved that are pushing forward to do things of the status quo. Like we should be a promotion. We should have a tour. Yeah, we could, but we have no infrastructure too if I'm the only one that does anything on that level. So misguided ambition. And, when you have something that seems like people can profit of it, people will come out of the woodwork and stick their fingers in it. And I allowed that to happen. So the idea of a promotion never intrigued me to be a 3-letter brand, but within this complex I'm building, I do believe wrestling will take place filmed, televised in front of fans, but it will not be under the CYN banner.
so you said, quotes, had a TV deal. Does that mean pro wrestling TV? Did you mean?
Yeah, I don't know if they're around anymore. I don't know what happened. So
No, I'm not sure either.
okay.
That's probably not a good sign, right? That's not a good thing. Yeah.
You think you know these things, but a lot of ambition and a lot of great ideas, but flawed execution because of the over ambitiousness of it. And the thing about starting something new is it takes countless hours of hard, unpaid work, and you have to come out of pocket. Like there is no, unless you have sponsors or, a billionaire father, you can't just start something out of nothing and have everything handed to you. So people didn't realize that.
Anybody in particular that you're thinking of?
No, everybody, me included. Yeah, I thought, yeah.
With that, obviously Adam Scherer, the man known as Braun Strowman, was involved as well. Because he was gone, does that mean there was no promotion? Like, what was the deal with not just
His,
him, but
yeah,
does that mean more than what I'm saying?
his name value attracted, attention to be able to possibly toy with the idea of being a traveling promotion. But at the same time, his narrative was to create himself and recreate himself to go back to the WWE. So this is a good spot for him to find himself and realize what's important to him and what he wants to do. So very happy he's found, success and that smile again, doing what he does best on WWE television.
Did you kind of hope he'd stick around and see this through, or that wasn't really a part of your plan?
I think it added too much pressure early. So everything happened the way it should have happened. When you have high level, former main eventer, former world's champion,
Yeah.
you have that pressure to do something immediately. And the infrastructure, like I said, wasn't prepared or ready. So I'm very happy. He's happy. We're pals. Everything is good. I think we would have grown too quickly and probably collapsed under our own weight if things went on as they did too. Just based on that name value and what it attracted, that we need a foundation before we have anything. And if we have a struggling foundation, but a giant mantelpiece on top of it, dude's big, it's going to crumble.
Yep. What did you think about when you guys did run shows? What did you think? Was it successful, not successful?
Despite some goof on the internet posting a picture when he was the first person in the building of a no attended show, I believe we had 6 or 7 shows. First off, excelled at the talent. People, getting opportunity, working hard, having good, conducive, character-driven, athletic, physical matches. Couldn't have been more proud of the guys we brought in. And a lot of these guys are people that, never had an opportunity in a sense, or they're not ready for everything. But if you find, and I think I'm good at this, finding what somebody is very good at and putting them in that position to succeed, I would say the shows did that. Orlando sold out twice. Cleveland, we sold out. Wisconsin, it's pretty good. Dallas, we ran Dallas WrestleMania weekend, and we were in the same building as another promotion. And they had to send the bartenders from that show over to our show because it was rocking so hard. So I'd consider that a success. The one show that was sparsely, it was not a good attended, well-attended show, but still a success, was our Detroit show. It was a bad location. It was a bad venue. But at the same time, it was one of the better shows because we had to work within our means and think on our feet because some things changed. So the adaptability of the talent was super impressive. And these shows need to be seen, and they're on video somewhere. I have to get them somewhere. Maybe TV would be great, but the shows were always good. I don't think anybody had a bad experience at a show. The Rant Room was a huge success.
Yeah, what was the deal with that, right? It was
a joke. People took literal and seriously, but no. Here's the thing: when people talk about somebody on a very personal level that they don't know, it's very easy through the confines of a keyboard and a screen. But if you truly have something you have to tell somebody, I thought providing you the environment to do that would in fact encourage discussion, because what we lack as a society is the ability to communicate. We can't discuss. We're tribal. We go this way or that way. Like somebody you might not agree with. Do you even know? Because a wrestler is a personality. Is it they're really their persona? Who's to say? You know, it was a good opportunity. I would keep it going. I'm going to keep it going. The Rant Room will live.
Did anybody take you up? I know one guy took Austin Aries up on it. Did anybody take you up on it?
No, because I'm just a lover and everyone loves me. But no, yes, there was one took Austin Aries up on it. And you know what happened? They had a cordial discussion where they became, I don't want to say friends, but mutually respected each other afterwards. Amazing what can happen with conversation.
What was his problem with Aries? I don't remember like if they ever
I think
discussed.
he didn't like, I don't know, some of the medical information Aries would share, whether
Oh,
he was behind it. So, and no, he didn't like his attitude at a point. Excuse me. Somebody here. What's up, man? What's going on? Yeah. Okay. I think he disagreed with some of his perspectives on that, but he also wanted to voice the fact that, you know, he didn't really appreciate him. And Austin stated his case to where he was like, you know what, that makes sense. And then they said, okay, cool, good, great.
so that was it? Just one Rant Room, and that's it?
Yeah, I wish we had more. Nobody
Right.
wanted to do it.
Did you film it at all, or no? This is like private.
No, that's a private conversation between two grown individuals. I think that would be better left for them, you know? And if they wanted to, I mean, maybe as the future grows, we could have televised Rant Room, a live stream of ranting and raving. I would weigh those options.
It's funny that there's so many people online that will complain and say stuff, but only one person stepped up and actually talked to him face to face.
Very brave of him too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bad thing. He just had a disagreement. He wanted to understand what he was saying. Okay.
So it started as a joke, though, that you really weren't going to do a Rant Room, but then you figured out, let's just do it, or?
I would say define joke. When in my mind, it was humorous and a joke, but at the same time, I commit to the gag. So once I decided to do it, yes, it was always going to be done.
So CYN had some success. Did that success like make you want to do more shows, or would that success almost kind of hurt you in the end?
That success was drowned out by a lot of the other, you know, issues that took place of having grown so fast, so quickly. And then medical issues where I had my neck injury and this atrophy. It was a lot at once, and the TV thing, things of that nature, where when Adam went back to the WWE, it was as good as time as any to take a step back, let it reset, put the pieces in play, and build it the proper way to where we're going now.
When you look at it, right? So he's gone, you know, he's to WWE. You're doing your own thing, you know, CYN, stuff like that. What like, does it really mean though now? Like, what does CYN mean? Is it just each individual person, everybody kind of splintered, or is there still like a group of you guys that are together?
I would say there's still like a brotherhood and a bond per se. I mean, control your narrative is not for anybody that's just part of a CYN show. It's not, a roster with contracts or dare I say tribal. Control your narrative was always meant to be an individualized ideal that people should be free to tell their stories. So CYN would be the platform for any professional wrestler if they're on the come up or they want to be reinvented, for them to have sort of a open forum to explore who they are as a person and as a character. So control your narrative is telling your story, and that remains the same. Right now, we can do it within, a whole plethora of new aspiring professional wrestlers who can make their way through this brand, wear this brand on their sleeve, but not be tied to it. There's no, like I said, you're not locked in. There's no contracts. Take what they learn here, become who they're supposed to be, go out there and make a difference in the wrestling world or the world in general.
Why did you guys get a little bit of a bad rap? Like, where did that come from? Like with like the political stuff? Like, what did
Because
that?
somebody, ironically enough, we announced a show in a similar venue on WrestleMania weekend as another promotion, and the venue said they got mad that we having a show, even despite the fact we're in completely different rooms, to where the venue offered, could we move our show back? And I said no, like we already booked it. And then the venue offered us, we'll give you the room for free if you move it back. And I said no, we've already scheduled this. Like you can't curb tail to being bullied. And then the next day, Reddit said that I was funded by Mike Lindell and Dan Bongino, and people believed it. So, I mean, I wish I had the My Pillow money floating around. This ring, I might paint the wall if I did. But yeah, we got a big Reddit lie spread, and then I think also at the same time I'm talking with Austin Aries, and he has kind of a split, obviously.
Yep.
But him as a person that I know, and what he wants to do, with his wrestling career and how he wants to give back and how he wants to make any rights, any wrongs right, was a story I wanted to tell. But by his association, immediately people thought it was something it wasn't.
It's funny, like the way that just blew up because like, oh, these guys are all right wing nuts, and everyone at the show is right wing nuts. Any of that true?
I know, right? It's weird. It's amazing what the lie on the internet can do. But it only costs people money and jobs. So thanks.
Any of that true at all with you getting some My Pillow money? That none of that's true?
No. I can firmly state for the fact and the record that Mike Lindell is not associated or a sponsor of anything I've ever done. I do think, because I said that if you get a discount on a My Pillow mattress topper, and I said a number that had some sort of insane dog whistle I never heard of attached to the number, that people thought, people assumed something. I just thought it was a funny joke that you'd get a My Pillow mattress topper discount if you use a promo code, but whatever. Again, I commit to gags.
Funny, you had mentioned that number. I'd never heard of it before. I had to Google
Never.
it to look it up. I've never heard that before. Crazy that
Insane.
other people knew what it was immediately. So I was like, that's kind of scary, right?
It only seemed like the people that wanted to find it as a flaw. So anybody with common sense and normalcy had no idea. But I digress. As a student of history, which I am, I'm very into, history. I have never in my life heard that. Till
Me
then.
neither. Me neither. I'm 40. I've never heard of that ever. So I had to Google it. I mean, like you do anything else, you just look it up to see what it is. I'm like, that's what that means. I had no clue.
Ironically enough, when I was an up and coming wrestler myself, I did a photo shoot with WWE, and they used Mansfield Prison in Ohio, where they filmed like Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
But it was a pay-per-view cover for Triple H, and like he's breaking out of jail, so he's got the jailhouse outfit on, sleeves cut off, looking jacked. We all had our numbers. Maybe I should have remembered this, but his number was 888, and I said, "Why is the number 888?" It's like 3 H's. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's clever." But maybe I should remember that 2H's automatically signifies one of history's greatest villains. My bad.
Pretty crazy, yeah, definitely. Interesting though for Triple H. Interesting choice. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Well, I mean, that was 2006. People weren't that insane back then.
Right. Yeah, it's a little different now. They're a little bit, they're a little crazier for sure. So, let's just say CYN gets going again. Would you film stuff there? Would you take it on the road? Like, what would you want to do with it?
CYN will never be a promotion. So
Okay.
will it create content? Will it create the characters that we can see, hopefully make it to big screen TVs? Will we provide a platform for that? Absolutely. Content creation, promos, character development, probably matches in a way. But as far as it being a traveling road promotion with a championship, and no, we will not be that. Not to say that out of what it created or what it started, there won't be something, but CYN as an official traveling wrestling brand promotion, it will never be that.
What about a faction in another promotion like
That would
NWA,
work.
etc.?
That would work, I think. I do like the idea of people associated with it taking the flag and waving it in each and every promotion across the world. I think that would be awesome. That's kind of what my initial intent was. It's a set of ideas you live by. It's individualism united under one banner. It's becoming who you're supposed to be. It's great. It's life story. It's the freedom to be who you are and to tell your story. And I think that rides in any wrestling character in any promotion. So yeah, if people want to get a CYN tattoo on their head, that's cool too.
You mentioned Triple H before. Any thought of ever going back to WWE or WWF or NXT? Like any thought of kind of going back or no? Not on your radar.
I guess it's an internal conversation and it would just depend on the means and the plans. So I would never say never. I would not say no, but like, I'm not going to go, yep, I think about it all the time and it's not happening because that would manifest failure, which I don't. So considering, I would consider any option and there's no ill will or bad blood there. So
When you look at the way it happened, like the way you released, they didn't really use you much on TV. Does that stick in your craw at all? Just as far as like, hey, like you could have used me a lot better.
yeah, anybody can say that. Like, I'm not the first and I won't be the last. I think one thing that I've grown out of is the tired mentality. And I think a lot of people within wrestling carry this of resentment. So being released from the first time, I won't lie and say that a vendetta to prove people wrong was not one of my main motivations, and which drove me to great levels of success, becoming EC3, becoming a 2-time world heavyweight champion, carrying a promotion on my back, having that ability, which never would have happened if I didn't get released. So I would not be who I am, and I'm very happy with who I am. Looking back on that, it was an awful run. It was not good. I had a terrible. The run started bad, it got worse, and then I had a really bad concussion. Then there was a quote pandemic, end quote, that a lot of people lost their jobs during. So could it have been better? Yes. If it was better, would I be in this position? Who knows? I don't carry resentment. I can only accept blame and accountability for myself for not doing what probably would have been necessary to succeed in that place at that time, which I didn't do. So the bad blood, no, like resentment, and you carry it with you, it's going to control you. And I do not let that happen.
When you look at it, were you allowed to pitch ideas and stuff when you look back? Because it seems like you're full of ideas. You're kind of an idea man. Like, were you able to do that or not really?
Yeah, I'm a genius. So are you allowed to pitch ideas? The answer is yes. The ways and means of pitching ideas and them going up the chain properly to the one set of eyeballs that matters.
Yep.
If you have the tenacity and the courage to do it sometimes, but also it's a very hard meeting to get. You're standing outside of a door for 3 hours. You don't know what kind of mood you're going to walk into. I think that's a problem with a lot of people who have great ideas. Pitching it up the chain from writers to producers for where it needs to go, a lot can get lost. So you're always allowed to pitch ideas. You can have a conversation with anybody. Is it going to go anywhere, though? That's the question.
I always hear that, like, oh, there's a line and this and that. I mean, it didn't always used to be that way from older wrestlers that I've spoken to. Many throughout the years changed.
it certainly seemed there was more accessibility in the past, especially when creatively the company was thriving. I mean, whatever they're doing though is working if they're making more money than ever, and they sold for, I don't know, was it 50 billion? Like
9.3 billion. Yeah.
why not? Still a lot of billions. Okay.
Yeah.
So 9.3, like the overall value of the company is so high, you can't say they're doing things wrong, even if people become disengaged or unsatisfied with the product. What's the bottom line? Pretty good.
When you look at it, though, it's almost like, wow, you can't really communicate with the creative guy, even though you want to. It kind of, I don't know, it can make you lose your, not your creativity, but make you lose your enthusiasm.
It certainly does. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with Uncle Vince Russo about this on his brand podcast today, but the ability to feel moments and emotion, we were discussing that, and kind of the where he's not seeing it in people, and he's kind of putting it on the talent in a way, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, after years and years and years of being kind of like thrown aside, or your ideas being unheard, or you're getting these manufactured moments that you can't really feel, you do lose that enthusiasm. And it's hard to constantly be 100% optimistic and enthusiastic when in fact, so much of the time you're a gear in a machine. And, that's one thing you trade for the high value contract is, personal creativity. It's about how much can you balance and how much can you take. And that's a question for any talent, really.
Because I've even heard of writers that left WWE, like creative writers, guys, and they said they never got their ideas, they never got it through. What they did pitch didn't end up being what they used, and they kind of lost not faith, but they just lost like luster, I guess. They just lost it.
I can imagine the writers having a very difficult job, so they get a lot of flack sometimes. But if you're a writer, you're a creative person. If you're a creative person and you're coming up with original ideas constantly, and some that you firmly believe in, like this is great, that if you see that idea get crumpled and thrown onto the floor enough times, you become, what's the point? And then you just put out drivel and you're still doing your job because it doesn't matter. It's a sad saying that sometimes we would have in the locker room, is that nothing matters. It's a bad mentality to have, and I promised myself I wouldn't have it, and I definitely got it.
Did you have any sort of relationship with Vince McMahon or no?
I've talked a couple times, but not really.
What about with Triple H?
Yeah, I mean, Triple H is very open to all talents, especially coming through the NXT, the television and the program. He was always very accessible and had plenty of good conversations with him.
What did you think about him, though? Was it one of the things where it can get a certain point with him, or was he really in charge?
For NXT, he was in charge. So, you can get your point across to him. And, one thing they don't teach you in wrestling, in performance centers or developmental territories or independent wrestling, which I will teach at the co-op, is the ability to pitch ideas and how to do it in a concise, quick manner. You have to have the elevator pitch. You have to give them something enticing immediately, and the persistence you need, because hypothetically, if I'm having a really good conversation with Triple H about, 6 months down the road, I see, this happening. Yeah, man, it sounds cool. The second I leave his line of sight, 90 other things are taking place where that conversation, though it's mine with him, I'm thinking about it. He doesn't have time to think about that. So the ability to persist with the ideas is a thing they don't teach.
You got to have a lot of energy, right? Mental energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of mental energy to go through with that.
Dude, mental energy is exhaustive. Absolutely. To be able to create, be creative, constantly think, like it becomes exhausting. So, if I'm sitting there in complete silence staring at a wall, people are like, that dude's not doing anything. He might be insane. No, I'm working. I'm working very hard, running stuff through, the old noodle up here. So
when you look at it, you don't have to like storyboard stuff out, right? I mean, this is all just like mentally, you're doing the elevator pitch. You're not like going in with like a storyboard and going, hey, this.
That might be, that might be a very successful way to do it. because they can deny words immediately, but if you have proof of concept in hand, and if they have, a thing about like, we're not really interested in what you're saying is like, all right, yeah, we'll think about it. But like, if you just keep going and then you show that dedication, that love, and that belief of that idea, that you're ad nauseum annoying the shit out of them, like they might be like, fine, I'll listen. What is? Oh, it's actually pretty good. So there's no set way on how to pitch, but I would say the persistence is required and the conduciveness of it is required, and be prepared to answer any question about where it goes. And at the end of it, don't tie it into you and your success. Tie it into how the business grows.
You mentioned Russo. To me, Vince Russo is such an interesting guy because WCW was killing WWF. I mean, they almost put him out of business. 83 weeks of dominance, which is actually way more than 83 weeks if you really look at the numbers and stuff. I mean, they're killing them. They put Russo in. He's got a different mindset. He's got a different writing style. Obviously, Steve Austin, The Rock, obviously played a huge part in that as well. But I mean, it's his like style, the Attitude Era. It's interesting that you and him like kind of maybe I don't know, yin and yang, if you will. You call him Uncle Vince. You guys get along, but do you have the same philosophy? It seemed like it'd be different philosophy.
I think our philosophies are very similar based on the fact we're very into character development and creating reasons for why, like the context behind things, why this is happening. One thing we definitely both agree on is if this were real, if we get like lost in a block, same thing with a match. If something doesn't go according to plan, what would happen if this were real? So that was one of his tricks for writing. If he got lost or got stuck, he'd just think, well, if this were real, what would happen? And it would kind of guide him. So he gets a bad rep because of Crash TV and TNA and like, crazy 90s, attitude era shit. But at the end of the day, his concepts were correct because he weaves stories and things happen for a reason to get to something else more often than not. And another thing I think he was great at, like we don't look at it today because, like it's a 5-minute brawl match, with a stupid finish. Like he's not caring about the finish. What he was great at though is everybody on the show had a point and a purpose and a meaning, from the low card to the mid card to the, top of the chain. So I thought, yeah, we're very like-minded like that.
It is interesting, like just like like the dirt sheet guys, and like they have this certain opinion of them. But if
They
you ask,
hate him.
yeah, they do. But if you ask Steve Austin, The Rock, and McFoley, 3 top guys ever, they love them.
Ask the people that have worked with the people. Do not ask the people that are reporting other people's, opinions as fact. So that was a thing too before I even met him. I'm like, I grew up on the advent of the internet, becoming like, this stinks. I met the guy, and A, he's one of the nicest men I've ever met. B, just conversations with him, I'm like, this guy, he gets it. He gets it because he doesn't live it constantly. He can see outside the bubble. And I think one problem with the current wrestling is everybody's kind of in the wrestling bubble where the Attitude's era success kind of went outside of it. Some was bad. It's not apologetic for some of the dumbass shit he did.
Right.
But at least going out there and trying to bring more people in, that's how you cultivate and craft new fans.
To me, obviously not perfect, but like if you were grading him, WCW wasn't that good. Obviously, TNA was okay, but WWF, his WWF stuff, I mean, you got to give him an A. I mean, his WWF stuff is Steve Austin and McMahon and Undertaker and Kane. I mean, it was great.
Guess what? He was a secret consultant in TNA when EC3 was coming up, and I didn't know that. We had no idea, but I guess he saw something in me. So,
who creates EC3? I mean, you said kind of like Derek Bateman stuff. You're getting trained by Daniel Bryan. You leave, like just the process of creating it because it's different. It's interesting. I know obviously it's Ethan Carter the third, but it's such an interesting character, so much different than Bateman was.
You have to evolve always, and I think the difference was Derek Bateman standing out, being goofy and comedic was the one thing I can do to stand out in a atmosphere where it was just, I mean, the NXT shit was boring and stupid. Oh. So, yeah. taking it seriously makes you look stupid. So when I'm doing that, I'm like, well, if they're going to make me look like an idiot, at least I'm going to be the best idiot, and I'm going to out-idiot their idiocy. So that was kind of the concept between that. Going over to TNA, being put, okay, you're the nephew of the owner. Right off the bat, you know, okay, this spot's just going to get a chance to do something. Like, even if it didn't work right off the bat, it's not going to be 2 weeks in, nope, pull the plug, it sucks. It was going to have an opportunity. So the confidence in knowing that I'm not getting fired tomorrow and I'm being brought in for a reason allowed me to be like, okay, who would this person be? And then kind of taking from who I am for real and who I would see a rich, entitled, third generation smug prick being, and how he would grow from this kind of guy that was handed tomato cans, owner of the nephew of the owner, to like a bona fide main eventer and a world champion. The progression he would have to take, the more, you know, serious he would have to be, the more battles he'd have to go through, the more scars he'd have to earn.
And when you look at it, the look, I mean, obviously you're ripped, you're in shape, but if a guy looks like that, to me, in a certain aspect, certain guys, like if they have the look and they're giving him a good role, it's like this guy can't not be somewhere near the top. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to the viewer.
Yeah. Aesthetic has to match the talent too. And, you know, one thing I'm telling people that come in here and any prospective wrestler in general, I think we've gotten away from it. Like, you're not a civilian. If you want to make it, if you want to stand out and you want to be a television wrestler or a star, understand you can't be like everybody else. So I'm not saying everybody has to be a jacked up sicko freak like me, but you have to be able to walk into public and people go, look at, like, what is that? That's different. You can't just be normal.
When they put the title on you for EC3, was it just like something that they had promised you, or were you surprised by it, or were you like, oh my God, I'm the man now? Like, you know, I'm the world champ.
I didn't know I was going to be the champion until that pinfall happened. I mean, maybe there was an idea the day of that I was, but you never know. Nothing's ever promised. I think people try to build promises into contracts now, and I think that's absurd and ridiculous. Like, if you are as good as you think you are, you don't need to be gearing. I need to be, you know, I need to be a champion within a year. That's cowardice shit to me. So though there was never a promise, there was never a guarantee, and that's how I kind of like to live, because that makes me want to work for something and to earn something. I could say, as the career was progressing, the trajectory I was on, one thing about TNA to WWE is like one's completely micromanaged while the other one has some leeway. When you have the leeway, you may not know when and where to take your character and evolve it and go up a level. But I kind of was able to see that. So it kind of went from side parted EC3, you know, just beating people, to like, shit, I'm in the ring with Sting and he's kicking my ass, but I barely get out of there alive. Next thing you know, Bully Ray's throwing me through tables. So now I'm becoming like a, you know, a warrior in a sense, because I have to go hardcore with like a hardcore legend. And then, you know, working towards, I have a goofy sidekick and we have a lot of fun and it's very funny, but like only one of us can make it. So I have to execute him live in front of his family and kind of take this sadistic, crazy, you know, sociopath to another level. Because now you're in the ring with the greatest wrestler of all time. How are you going to win and beat him if you're still the same as you were? Kind of ha-ha and funny. So I think those things make a lot of difference. But again, it's not something people teach.
I'm always curious, like, does the wrestler, like, do you feel like I'm the man, like I'm important, I got to carry this thing? Is that weight? Is that pressure? Or you're just like, oh, this is great, like I'm booking against Sting and Lashley and Angle, and I'm you know, destroying Spud. Like, what's the thought process of the wrestler that's the champ?
It's an honor and it's pressure, but you're honored by the pressure, because if you're having that pressure, that means people believe in you to deliver. So
When you're the champ, is your focus like I got to hold this for a while, or I'm just going to become evolving? The title doesn't matter as much.
I think there is a narcissistic need and want to like have a sustained title reign and a numerical value attached to it. But in theory, if you're the champion for 1 minute or 100 days or 700, like that means the company believes in you in some aspect. So you do respect that. The need is to constantly increase the business, though, because when you're put with that task, that pressure isn't just like, I'm the champion, everything's going to be easy. You're responsible, if you're a true, accountable male, female individual, you're responsible for the success the company is going to have. So if the business starts going down while you're the champion, even if it's not your fault, it's your fault, or you have to act like it is and do what's necessary. And there might be nothing you can do. It just might be how the tide's turning, but you have to work like it's your fault.
So Derek Bateman's not really you. You know what I mean? EC3 is more you, but how much of you is EC3? Or am I wrong? Or are you always that character? You know what I mean? How close are you to the character?
In early 20s, me was, Derek Bateman-ish for sure. Late 20s to 30s to adult male who's seen the world and has life experiences and had great successes and great failures and, heartbreak and triumph and tragedy and, getting fucked over and things like that, like all those life experiences. Yeah, it's very much who EC3 is. I think myself as a creative, it's easier to live my truth in a character way. A, because it's good therapy, but B, it makes me authentic when I do and say things that I'm deriving it from a real place.
So when you say control the narrative, I always hear that now, even after you've said that now more than ever, for just like random shows like Succession, like everyone's always saying control the narrative. How important is that WWE or somebody else isn't controlling the narrative for you? Like you can kind of control your narrative. How important that is that?
It depends on how much am I willing to sacrifice. If WWE called right now and there's $1 million downside guarantee, but you have to be a plumber, it's a very serious conversation I'd have with myself. And like, is that monetary value worth me not being able to creatively be fulfilled? I think it's important for anybody to want to be able to dictate who they are and where their life goes and what they do with it. So I think it's very important life mentality. And as far as career, even hypothetically, if that scenario doesn't happen, but we're in talks, controlling the narrative isn't necessarily you. I have this great idea. I want to be the champion. I want to beat Roman. Like, okay, good idea, dumbass. No, like, here's what we want to do with you. What is their ideas, visions, and goal? Okay, how can I make this and have some control over how I portray it too? So one thing about creative, not just in wrestling, but in any avenue, is it's at its best when it's a collaboration with people on the same page.
When did that kind of come into your head, psychology wise, like control the narrative, control your narrative? Like when did it hit you?
Pandemic, talking to partner with CYN who said, yeah, man, you have to control your narrative now. And I was like, that's a t-shirt. So
Just like that.
Just like that.
Now, of course, NWA is one of the leagues. I know you were just in Mexico, right? You were just in the crash, but NWA seems to be obviously fresh in your mind, national champion. Is that somewhere you'd like to see yourself? I know you want to be world champion, but is that somewhere you see yourself long term?
Yeah, I could be the world's heavyweight champion. I think would be quite an accolade to becoming a final version of myself as a 3-time world's heavyweight champion. I think NWA is poised and ready and can be built from the ground up. I've been in scenarios before, especially with Impact on, the alleged, like everything was changing where I had to be the focal point and the focus and, carry a burden, I guess. And I'm prepared to do that again, but I now have the experience. I can do it. I want to build NWA. I think there's a plethora of potential to provide something conducive, coherent, and different than everything else, but not different in a sense it's so absurd and obscure, but just focus on character and, the realism that we can get out of professional wrestling, I think.
Do you have a good relationship with Billy Corgan, who's obviously the owner of NWA?
Oh, yeah. We're both Pisces, so we're both creative weirdos.
Interesting about him, I didn't know how big of a. I know obviously he was supposed to be part owner of TNA, and obviously that didn't happen. You know, he put some money in it, and there was some problem there. But I never knew he was like that big of a fan. He's like a historian of some of the
He
wrestling stuff.
very much. I think he knows more than majority of wrestlers about the history of it. And you're talking to him about ideas and him like pulling up some obscure 1973 scenario. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm just like that. And I'm like, what the hell is he? What is he talking about? Okay, so savants have vested in strange interests, I'd say. So when you're so gifted at something like music, you're not built normally mentally. So it's interesting that wrestling is like a passion of his as well. But I'm down with it.
I was just fascinated because I got the opportunity to interview him, and I thought we talked about Smashing Pumpkins. I think he mentioned it one time for like 30 seconds. He was talking about like Ronnie Garvin and Ric Flair and Harley Race. You know what I mean? He's talking about like old school wrestling. I was like, wow, he's just like a huge fan. You know, just like me. He's just a huge fan.
Yeah, it's cool to have that perspective. And then what's great about him too is he's been successful outside of wrestling in an entertainment business that's probably even crazier and more cutthroat, like the music business. So you have to have faith and trust, because like if he built a band to be one of the perennial mainstays of modern music for 20 years, he could probably find a good location for a top tier wrestling promotion to grow and thrive.
Would you ever think of teaming up with him and having like your school not be a feeder, but be
Oh yeah,
something for him to feature?
100%. I don't know if Billy Corgan knows this, but I'm building his developmental territory. So
Exactly. Right. Right.
that quote will hit him on the internet.
He
That's what I'm sure.
he'll be into it, or what? Will he be into it?
I think he'd be totally into it. I mean, first off, he's not losing money. There's no financial vested interest in him at this moment. Secondly, I have a keen eye for talent and potential. And as I said, creative genius, that we can definitely, if something great happens here with somebody, they'll definitely be seen by Billy, because I will definitely point it out. And that's another advent in doing business with me. I'm connected.
Yeah, very good. And Crockett Cup is coming up, which is interesting, right? You're defending the title, the national title against the Thrill Billy, the big boy.
Allegedly, I have a match against the Thrill Billy for the National Heavyweight Championship. But before then, I'm going to try to make him an offer. I do think the dude's huge potential. He's athletic, man. Like he's one of the under the radar, should be one of the guys people are paying attention to, because what he can become is like modern day Bigelow, Vader-ish, but goofier. Because I mean, he is a very special talent. That's all I'll say about that. But super talented, on the come up. I think he'd behoove him to possibly negate his title shot, help me become the world's heavyweight champion. And then after I become the world's heavyweight champion, I will gift him the national championship. He doesn't have to fight me. Everything's cool, and he's well on his way. And then he's under my wing. Maybe I even do the thumbs up to him, and he doesn't powerbomb me through a table. But
Yeah.
as of now, I'm scheduled to defend the title. I guess we'll see if that happens. If it does happen, it means he turned down my offer and my deal, and then I'll have to destroy him.
Man, he's a big boy too. I saw him and I was like, wow, he's like 6'5". He's bigger than I thought he was. He's a monster.
He's huge.
Yeah. And trained by a guy that works backstage for the NWA, Dr. Tom Pritchard trained him. So pretty good.
Yeah, the thing about Dr. Tom Pritchard is Silas had a year or so under his belt with Dr. Tom. I've had a lifetime with Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom's telling me everything I know, and then most of what he knows. While Silas, he probably taught him everything Silas knows, and not a ton of what Dr. Tom knows. So I think I have an advantage mentally, certainly do spiritually, and in a way, I guess physically, because I'm more agile and limber than Throwbilly. So.
Dr. Tom, longtime close personal friend of mine. I'll be talking to him later tonight. Give me some dirt on him, or maybe some positive about him.
I have nothing but positive to say about Dr. Tom. First off, he's the reason I'm even considering doing this, because of what he meant to me when he did it in FCW, and how, I don't know if he knows it, but sure, he taught me a bunch about wrestling, but listening to him talk taught me a lot about life and how to be, to grow into being a man and things like that. So very big fan of Dr. Tom. I owe him incredibly. He was a player's coach, best coach you can find. If you're in the, Knoxville area.
Yep.
If you can't come to me, go to him. In fact, go to him for beginners and then come to me afterwards. So I don't have to teach you how to lock up. I don't want to do that shit. No, but Dr. Tom is the absolute best, and I owe a lot to him.
I went down there to visit him last year, and I was just amazed. Somebody did, these two guys obviously working in the ring. I mean, there was a bunch of them around the ring, but the two were working the ring, and they did something. I'm just a fan, just like kind of observing. I didn't notice, and he's like, "It would be better if you did it this way." And he was like explaining. I was like, "Wow, he really is like a genius with like the little things of wrestling that you wouldn't even pick up on or think of as a fan."
The little things, man. There's nothing bigger, and I think one thing I want to bring to people. I didn't know this until I got into a developmental system, until I got into an OVW and an FCW, an NXT, and working, top level names. But there's so much intricacies and little things that you're never going to learn because you don't see them until you see them. So when you're, working the independents against someone, even if they're a veteran in the independent sense, but kind of on your level, like you'll never know these things. And like, people are so capable of so much more if it's just somebody guides them. And it's not that they don't want to know. It's just that few can communicate it. So that's why I have that benefit of being trained by Dr. Tom, and I can hopefully bring some of that to people.
So we'll hit the wind down here. We'll head towards the finish. I got to mention this because I don't know. I'm just fascinated by it, and maybe you won't want to answer it, but I'm just perplexed by it in certain instances. So Velveteen Dream always like comes out with this stuff, and it's like off the wall, like crazy stuff. What is the issue with you guys? Because you'll say one thing, then he'll come back on like a phone in like a bathroom and say something. I mean, crazy.
He's got his own issues, legally.
Well, yes.
Mentally, I guess. I don't want to harp on old things, but there was a story where they set up a camera in my bathroom at a party and people peed, and he was recording. It was weird. So I did say that on a podcast once, and he fired back, rightfully so. And then I don't know, he made me look awesome talking about how cool I am to hang out with, and it was a party animal that all the chicks loved. I mean, ouch, bro, that hurt. And then that's that. It's dumb. It's stupid. I'm not into regrettable past actions. I hope he finds happiness. I hope he finds the best. And if there wasn't so many issues surrounding legal stuff, I would love to wrestle him.
It's just funny. It's like every time he mentions something else comes out about his past, and it's like, okay, you lose credibility every time something else comes out about your past. You know what I mean? It's just not good.
It's really about like in the mental health age. I do hope he finds peace and happiness, and if he needs it.
Yeah, he was getting a big push from Triple H and NXT for a while, so obviously they fell out of favor big time.
He extremely talented, very gifted. I don't know what that means now, but that's life, unfortunately.
So if I said to you, you got a crystal ball 5 years down the road, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be? Where is EC3 going to be in a few years?
I mean, 5 years from now. Well, I don't know if I want to wrestle anymore. I don't know. I'd probably have a very successful lifestyle brand. I'd have a very successful professional wrestling cooperative that is churning out world-class talent that people know by name, that are branded because they went through the rigors and the weird stuff I'm going to put them through. But this stuff is with purpose within life. Hopefully hopefully they get more out of just, bullshit wrestling with me and, life journey, life experience, life advice. Carrying the brand, I don't know. I'll probably still be jacked and tan and look great. And maybe I do an occasional match from a big attraction, but I hope not, because at that point, why are we still wrestling? Well, no, I'm going to be 44. I could still go. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be a 7-time world heavyweight champion by then.
Nice. Any interest in AEW at all?
I have interest in anything that would be conducive to business and product. I mean, you hear things about like, I would have a conversation with anybody, literally. And I think it would be a good conversation.
I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but they could use guys like you're bigger. I mean, you got some. They could use some guys that have a little side, more aesthetically pleasing guys than they have. Just to me, just the fan just looking at it, they could use some bigger guys.
Yeah, and the fact I'm a better wrestler than everybody too doesn't hurt. I don't know if
Doesn't
you
hurt.
know.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt either. Yeah.
Well, I do less moves and I win more matches. That makes me better than most people. So
Right.
think
Yeah.
about it. Think about it. Think of the efficiency rating I have.
Yeah.
It's
So, I mean,
87%.
isn't that a part of the game, though? Right? You know, being able to do that.
Yeah, I would think so. Doing less and getting more is life's goal. You know, no wasted effort, no expended energy. No, you maximize your minutes. I could turn that place into a relevant, hostile war zone of insanity with a live microphone. I can do that for sure.
I would love it. That would be awesome. Maybe shake things up a little bit.
Hey, who's to say?
Now, as far as like, you know, doing less with more, I knew a guy that used to point his finger and the crowd would go nuts, and that's all he needed to do, or cup his ear, and the crowd would go, right? Less is more in wrestling.
We had a debate on our Sports Media podcast, Chris Featherstone, Vince, and myself, because Jericho came out and said he thought Hogan was a better worker than Flair, and it was causing all sorts of whatever. Right. Like a guy like that, despite what you think you know about wrestling as a wrestling fan, with like moves and move sets and the tit or tat, 50-50 nonsense, the dude was a phenomenal wrestler and one of the best workers of all time, because his ability to not have to do those things and do the simplest things brought so many people into the world of wrestling.
That's why Bobby Heenan, we said, the best worker is the guy that puts the ass 18 inches away from the other ass. You know what I mean? So he's got to be the best worker. Hogan sold the most tickets.
I would agree.
And to do less with more, but to do it so well. He's an awesome seller, working from underneath, coming up. I mean, working levels, everything. Hogan was a master.
Working levels is a great point. Something we'll teach here. But from an athlete perspective, if we're just looking strictly on physicality and athletics, the amount of energy it takes to fire up like that is as much as, if not more, than bouncing off the ropes and jumping off of it and springboarding, and that, like, the amount of energy that takes is the same, if not more.
I agree. So what's next in the immediate future? OVW, NWA, what's next in the immediate future?
We're doing dabble in OVW because I'm just trying to recruit, the future of the industry, but also I'm a fan of, like, they're building something, and it's, it's good to be a part of it. It's nice to go back to the roots. So OVW, I'm there often. We'll be down there next week for, I believe, 4 shows. And then NWA, we had the Crockett Cup. This Sunday is the CYN preface for any trained wrestler that wants to come to an open house kind of seminar. 12:33 p.m. Email office@controlyournarrative.com to get information and to RSVP. This is free. Anybody can come. That's a trained professional wrestler. So just email us. I'll have about 30 to 40 people of that.
Awesome.
Crockett Cup. I think, we're going to be touring with the Pumpkins with NWA. I'm going to be busy, and then I'm probably going to launch something here in Cleveland. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Where can everybody find you social media wise?
At the Real EC3, and my social media is a mess. So I'm only on Instagram right now, but I'll figure it out. I'm too busy to be on socials.
I know. I noticed that.
I suck. Here's the thing. It's about, in the world of consumption, I think we're getting lost. We consume so much. The idea is to try to create as much as you consume. So anytime you're on the phone for an hour and a half scrolling, do something that's conducive to creation for some amount of time, so we can at least balance it out. Because when you become filtered with other people's ideas, and you're indoctrinated by everyone else's thoughts and all the woes in the world and all the the misinformation, you become a scattered mind. So create for yourself. It's rewarding.
All right, awesome. EC3, great advice there. But thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. 2-man power trip. Cheers.